Good afternoon and welcome to Hard Talk with Marsha Walker. It is 4 p.m. and that means that you are probably now leaving the office and about to face some traffic to get home. As always, I thank you very much for allowing me into your car space. David, where are my numbers? David, you know I don't know my numbers offhand. I think it's 222 talk. If you are up, and David, it just like miraculously appears. So you can WhatsApp on 868-318-1021. That's WhatsApp only. If you want to speak to me, then you call on 222 talk. So that's 222-8255. If you are in the US or Canada, you can call toll free 866-525-1099. Let me make sure and turn my message board on because sometimes I forget to do that and I miss all your comments. So you can comment. I think the Facebook Live is down. David, you can let me know for sure. I have not popped on my phone or anything to see, but we are streaming on YouTube. So you can leave your comments on YouTube and I'm going to get it on the dashboard. Technology is so wonderful. Right? So, well, bacchanal, you know, David. Some of my guests might be late today. You know why? Because one of my guests is from one of these pop-up parties. So I want to find out anyway. I don't know if you know, David, but I saw it in the news that the opposition leader has invited certain third parties to come and talk about some alliance. Though mine just last week she was calling third parties pop-up parties, and OUNC could win it on their own. But yeah, so one of my guests, if you know, well, if the meeting goes on time, then he'll join us and then we'll be getting it hot off the press what happened in the meeting. Or if the meeting doesn't go on time, and David, I have to say that I don't have faith that the meeting will run on time because I have been invited to meetings with the opposition leader before. And I mean, sometimes you would be told to come for 4 o'clock. And I mean, to reach to well, well, it wouldn't take you so long. You're in Labrie, but I live in Digger Martin, right? So to reach, you know, you have to kind of pass the traffic, and you know what Port of Spain to South looking like, right?
Yeah.
So you leave home really ridiculously early to get to this meeting. I tell you, I think the meeting was like 3 p.m. or something, and we didn't meet till 9 p.m. Pressure. But and this is not, I mean, I'm not the only person that says that, right, David? I mean, people will say screening, local government election screening was ridiculous. Oh my, people were complaining because, you know, they'll take the day off and then it doesn't happen, or they might take a shift, you know, a different shift, so that they're hoping to go to work in the afternoon, and then but you there from, you know, till midnight and you came since in the morning. So those are definitely, that's a big complaint. I know some of the MPs, I call them the Fabulous Five. I know some people call them the dissidents, but you know, the Fab Five have spoken out about that kind of lack of discipline for time and punctuality, and it shows a real disrespect to, you know, to people's time. So we'll see. I'm waiting. So I have what is nah boy? So I'm checking. Nah, what does nah mean, boy? Hold on, I'm going to ask him because that's my guess. Kyle, I'm on air. What does nah mean? so, so we have you know, Kyle Taklal Singh. He's going to talk a bit about Tobago autonomy for us, but that's later. He's actually not going to be late because he's not a political leader of one of those parties. And Chris, well, I don't know where Chris is. I tell Chris we start at 4 o'clock today. You know, normally we start at 4:05. So I tell Chris, you know, hurry up and come on. You know, it's 4 o'clock. So he's getting ready. He says he's gonna be here soon. But David, I know that you and I could carry this show by ourselves. You know, we don't really need a guest. You know, we could just talk. We could talk politics. We could talk about the changes. We could talk about all kinds of things. And you know, and normally I have things on the side for when guests come late and whatnot. And I really didn't have much today because Chris couldn't. You know, Chris is normally one of those who just solid, who will be on time, and he could talk for 2 hours. So if another guest do come, I could say, Chris, just stay on with me for 2 hours. Remember the time when David, when we had when my internet was down,
Yes.
and Chris just take over the show and host the show for me. Yeah, so I really well, the thing about it is, I can talk, but I don't want to take away, because what the same thing that I told Chris I was gonna do a TikTok video this week, right? I say, nah, look, let me wait and do this. Let me do the interview here, you know. So if I talk too much, then I don't, I don't know. I don't want to take away from what Chris going and say, nah, you know. But I want to talk about. David, you watch Parliament Channel
Sometimes.
sometimes. You watch it this week?
No, no, no. This week I was very, very busy this week.
Oh my, he just put a lot. Anyways, when he comes, I'm
Sometimes
going.
I'm more into the
Chris, where
social
are you? I'm talking
life.
to David and to you on the phone, online, on air. By the way, Chris, hurry it up, Chris, hurry it up. Yes, you
Yeah.
are. Sorry.
Yeah, I am more involved in the social part of the runnings of things because I'm affiliated with the Pitch Lake Tour Guides, of which I'm the
Serious?
president. Yes,
When
so
I come in,
yeah, good.
I
We
come in.
welcome you. We welcome
I
you.
was, was it? No, no, it was Point Fortin. Sorry, I went to Point Fortin the other day.
That's
Yeah, it was Point Fortin. I was
the
invited to well, I say the other day, but I mean,
yeah,
several months ago when they had just opened, I think the highway, and they didn't have the signage,
right,
and
right.
they had some accidents and whatnot, and they,
Yes, yes.
asked me to come and raise my voice, lend my voice to the issue.
Mhm.
So how far? Oh gosh, I'm gonna sound like a real West girl, but explain to me, like, Point Fortin, Labra's further, no?
No,
Yes. No?
Labre is closer than Point Fountain is
Oh, so,
further.
see, so I went real far then. I went real
Yes,
far.
yeah. I guess Chris is here.
Chris is here. Hi, Chris.
Hi, Marsha. Hello, everyone. Are we on air already?
We
Yes,
absolutely,
we
but just send you a message saying we're on air since 4 o'clock, and I talking to you
So,
on my phone on air. Everybody
so
seeing.
first of all,
I
let me
tell
just
everybody
say,
that you late.
are.
I tell you out publicly.
so
Publicly, I tell
good.
you out.
So good afternoon, Trinidad and Tobago. Listen, y'all,
But
there's a
Chris,
lot of
listen, I'm
rain.
trying to find out about South. Oh well, oh, Chris is from South too. So wait, all
I'm
the
from
gang
so
up on
there
me
is
today.
so much rain. So I know that people are going to be they're trapped in the car. They have to listen to
They're in the
us.
car. They're in the
They
car.
have to. So it have
Did,
no. They
did
will
you know
listen to
David is
peace and
from
then they reach
Labrie?
home.
Did you know David is from
What part
Labrie?
of South are you from, bro?
I am from San Fernando West, so
Oh,
I live
okay.
in that area, Laramie, San Fernando
Oh,
West.
okay.
Yeah.
Great, great. Well, I'm
So
from
how far?
Laverne.
How far is Labrie from Laramie?
Because of the new highway, not that far, you know.
No, you get there
Yeah.
very
So
quick.
Chris, we going. So he is part of the tour
Laverne
group,
Pitch Lake Tour Guides.
Labrie Pitchley tour guides. So Chris,
Yes.
we go in. You come in. You come in. Me.
So I'm glad, you know, that I believe in the law of attraction, right? And I have been manifesting going to the pitch league for a long time. In my mind. Just like I'm manifesting learning to swim, right?
You
And
can't
so
manifest learning
You
to
I
from
don't
swim.
know how to
In
Savannah?
a
swim.
pool, in a pool.
You
I'm
from
learning.
Savannah West and you can't swim, man?
I can't swim. I can't swim, but I will learn. I will learn to swim, and we're going to the pitch league. Yeah, we have month of December, you know, Marsha. So you know, just now you'll be talking New Year's resolutions
I
at some
don't
point.
believe in New Year's resolutions.
Why? We had to believe in something.
I believe in Jesus.
Okay, well, I agree. I believe
Right.
in Jesus
So I don't
too.
believe in New Year's resolutions. Not no one has nothing to do with the next. I just think that this nonsense about waiting until January to make these resolutions, and you ain't gonna keep it. Chris, my philosophy. I believe in growth every single day. So you didn't get it right. We could resolve to fix it tomorrow. So but I find like you should know me long enough to know I don't need seasons for anything. So I don't need
Okay.
Christmas to celebrate the birth of Jesus. I don't need Easter to celebrate the death. Well, that might be a slightly different one, but I don't need Easter to celebrate the death of my Lord. I don't need a happy birthday to celebrate my children born. I kind of celebrate every
Mhm.
day. I'm one of those. So I ain't go put off because we're in June. Well, I go wait till January to do my resolution, and I just fix it one time. You know.
Mhm.
I do things like when did I resign? Somewhere in August
Oh
last year.
gosh.
I just resolve. I resolved to resign one time. Wait until January
All
to do new
right.
things. Chris, I just want to point out to you that last I had a cream curtain just like yours, Chris. I went and I bought one. David, do you remember my backdrop was looking very similar to Chris' own last few shows?
Yes, yes, yes.
Because I loved Chris's backdrop. And Chris was telling me what to do and all of that, right? But I got kicked out. I got kicked out of the dressing room. And that curtain that I bought is like, boy, nice thing to put in a hotel where you're like, you don't touch it now. So the thing rumple up, it's too much work. It's
Now,
not
how long I hear somebody say they would rumple?
serious. So what all is use when all your clothes need ironing?
People don't iron clothes anymore.
Wrinkled. I don't know.
Oh, wrinkled.
Wrinkled?
And I went convent.
No, wait. I don't think we'd say that. We'd have just said need ironing.
David, you don't use the word rumple?
Sometimes.
No, but I mean, I know the word. I probably use it several times, but I didn't use it in a long time.
So you just say, oh, so you'll say the curtain need ironing.
Yeah, it need ironing. Yeah, need ironing.
Well, my curtain need ironing constantly, and it's just too much work. But I tried your thing because like I
It
can
looks
pull
good.
it,
No,
I can pull
it
it,
looks
and
good. Don't pull it.
it's
Don't
still
pull
there. But I just find like it added a little dimension.
A little, yeah.
Yes. So you told me you just need a little bit,
Just a little something. And maybe at some point you could put a little plant. I'm supposed to get a plant to put something somewhere, but I don't know when I'm gonna do
Well,
it.
Jessie does art, so I thought about putting like a painting.
That is
or
a good
something.
idea.
Yes, I did.
That is a good idea. Half a paint the red house.
She is actually doing the Magnificent Seven right now, but as a commission piece, so that have nothing to do with me. I can't afford it.
Oh, you can't afford.
But I think she did start the Red House because I wanted Parliament.
Right.
So I don't know if it's finished. So if she forget me because paying customers, take precedent over me. But Richard was like, so why you need something? No, David, I don't know if you know my husband, but he's like ultra simple now. So he was like, but why you need something else? You just put a curtain, you're going and put a art piece too. I was like, yes, it needs something else. And he was like, so that's why I didn't put something else. Because I tell Jesse I have real art, I could have stick something right here or something, but so David, what we doing? We putting a piece here or we not putting a piece here?
Well, it will add to the backdrop.
Right. So David say we put in, Chris say we put in. Good. All right, Chris, are we ready to talk politics?
I am ready. Are you ready?
So Chris, let me tell you something, huh? You could manifest to each his own. I'm going to ask Jesus, but I don't know. Because then, so let me tell you a little Bible, right? So the Bible says ask and you shall receive, right? Some people think, you can just randomly ask. But then the Bible goes on to, because, as I always say, people just want to read half the Bible. The other half is giving you the right context.
Right.
So then, Jesus will say, but you ask and do not receive because, you're asking for the wrong thing now. So this may be a situation where I'm asking for the wrong thing, but I'm going to tell you what I'm asking for anyway. My second guest is supposed to be the political leader of MND.
Oh, them in big meetings today.
Exactly.
Meeting.
Big
meeting, Marsha.
Yes. So that's why I had to ask you if you would stay on longer because
I can't stay on longer.
Because them
we want to know what comes out of the meeting.
But you see, they're thinking like me. Because I say, well, we going and stay on. And even if Kyle come on, I'm going to say, Kyle, breaking news, because anytime them finish before 6:00, he is coming to give us
the inside scoop. You are.
I've already said it, and he's confirmed. He has confirmed that once he finishes in time, he is coming to give it to us hot off the press.
This is Gavin Nicholas you're speaking about, right?
This is Mr. Gavin Nicholas. And listen, because I've said to him, and I said, I hope that she respects your time because, we could say 3:30 and them don't meet till 9:30.
He was the Attorney General during the People's Partnership time for some.
He was for a short time. So it was when everybody got fired, and
All right, Marsha, don't say nothing just yet because they want him to come on.
Yes.
Right? Okay.
Well, he knows where I stand.
No, but they're making up.
They're making up. Well, we'll
I
see.
we,
To be
well,
a
we hope.
fly on the wall, Chris. To be a fly on the wall. I want to see
You
Philip
really?
Alexander. I want to see Philip Alexander in a room with all of them,
I don't know. I don't
and
know.
he has to sit down and wait his turn to talk. Just say it.
Marsha, no, Marsha, you can't accuse him of that because I think you might have a similar problem in these
No,
rooms.
not at all. Not at all. You putting me in the same category as Philip.
I'm putting him in the same category as talkative.
No, they have a difference between talkative and pushy. I'm just saying.
Well, Philip not coming on the show.
Oh, well, I don't want him on my show.
Oh my gosh, Marsha, you're a journalist. You should want to speak with everybody.
Oh, no. No. Sorry.
Anyways, but how you feeling?
It doesn't make sense speaking. I think that he spreads a lot of misinformation.
Mhm.
So I will not give him a platform to spread misinformation.
Because he has his spaces to do that.
He does. I see
Yeah.
Darren put him in his place this morning. Did you read Darren Budan's letter of the day?
Darren Budan is one of our national treasures in this country.
He really is.
And
I
I
wish he
think
would come and I wish he would be willing to to do interviews.
I think he is one of the better writers, political writers, and his pieces are all there's so much. So he's really good with the English language. There's sarcasm. I see, and his use of language as well.
Chris, let me just answer my husband because I have no idea why he put building. You know, normally he's come and dropped some kind of "you're so pretty" line and have me blushing. But I don't know if he made a mistake. I don't know what is building. But we were talking about maybe he put the word building. You know, whatever. Building, maybe something about because we were talking about the whatever. Richard Walker, you need to comment and tell me what that one word building is about. If you're driving, stop typing. That's why I put one word.
Building a coalition.
No, doubt it. I remember I mentioned him when we were talking about the sketch, the art piece and whatever. And I say he don't want the art piece because he says too much and whatever. Anyways, we're moving along. Darren Buran speaks well. He sarcasm, you were saying. Yes. Keep going.
Yeah. Excellent use of language.
He writes well. I wish he would speak well and come on my interviews.
So I think he's really, really, really good. But what I find so far, first of all, Trinidad and Tobago, as much as we go into this, and I think we're already in the silly season, the election period, right?
Absolutely.
We're already there.
Absolutely.
But can we acknowledge that we're going to get into the political banter and debate, etc.? But there's excitement in this. I feel excited. Are you excited? I feel excited.
I feel more excited this week, but that might be because I have inside information and I'm waiting. Oh, but your background looking nice, girl. It's clown. You say tell all it has something to do with my background.
But what? Well, you can't tell us the inside information.
Of course, I can't tell you the inside information.
You could tell me off air.
We're offering.
I wouldn't tell anybody.
That's what you're offering to keep my secret.
Marsha, as a politician on live radio, it can't be seen. I will learn to swim.
Politics is all about making deals. Let's get it straight.
Persuasion.
I have said it before that I have no problem in terms of certain things like favor or financing and stuff like that, right? I have no problem with that because first of all, I think if I have a preferred contractor, and that's a bad one to use because in Trinidad, oh gosh, construction equals corruption in the government.
Oh my gosh.
But there may be, like, you can't just go for the cheapest contractor. Then your house go fall. You're an engineer. You understand.
Yes, quality work, experience,
so I think
technical ability.
So I do think that there's a space for your favored, for your preferred, you know. Have a relationship. I know the work that you've done. And, you know, I could vouch for the work that you do. So you may be more expensive once you're not, you know, ridiculous. But once there are no kickbacks or anything, I don't think that we need to always go, well, look at this. This one was the cheapest. This one was the cheapest. Why it didn't save us money? You know, because in the long term, I might have saved you money.
I know that I didn't come here to speak on this, but I just want to mention something that I've been thinking about. And I know it may not be connected directly, but I think I want to get your opinion on it as well. Return on investments. We always hear about an investment
Zero?
in investments in a stadium. Or I just
It
give it
doesn't
some
say zero.
examples.
The zero.
Or a facility or something, a library
Yeah, we
or
have none. We have none. Get it? No.
yeah, like we definitely need to maybe remodel how we invest, because I think
Also, I
you
mean,
know
Chris, let me tell you,
mm,
Watson Duke said something, and I was going to do a video on it. You know, I don't
what
know.
he
Maybe I
said,
just don't have the time to go and do videos or something.
what he said.
But we were talking about, you know, the whole Tobago airport and the
Correct,
fiasco
yeah.
and whatever. And he said, you know what, from where I stand, it looks pretty. You see my
Okay.
face?
Wow.
Exactly. I was like, and he was like, you know, why can't we have nice things? And I thought to myself, this is precisely the mentality that has us where we are. So we feel we should put up 5 stadia because it looked pretty, and then we can't maintain it. And after the 5 stadia, we can't send nobody to the Olympics. We can't do nothing. Right? Whereas you can go to some countries where their facilities are so poor and then producing athletes coming and going. Or you could go to some Caribbean islands, some Latin American countries where their airport looked like what it used to look like. Well, you know, the old rundown little airport that we used to have. It looked just like that. It's small, it's tiny, it didn't have nothing fancy, but I'm pumping tourists in and out. So we have this thing where, you know, it's like you put on a Jordans to go to school, but you had nothing in your brain. But you looking fancy going to school, but you had nothing in your brain, nothing coming out of you going to school. And so that comment about, well, it looked nice, just made me feel like this sums up why we are where we are.
Yeah.
Because we don't look at it as but we don't look at, I mean, and nobody's asking hard questions like that, Chris. Like, what is have we calculated the return on the investment?
So I asked Watson Duke. I was on a panel discussion with him.
Okay.
A couple of months ago, and I asked him, and that's why I find him to be an interesting personality, right?
Okay.
A music record personality. Because I asked him what is the constitution of the PDP looks like, and how do you all elect a political leader? You know, his answer to me was something along the lines of PDP is Watson Duke and Watson Duke is the PDP. And I was like, you're not answering me.
Yeah. That sounds just like PEP and PE.
And then he went on to tell me, he said, what is the term they use at Titan? How they describe the PDP warriors? There's a word that he used.
Oh, I
forgot the word. It's like we need more of that. And
yeah.
started to perform almost as though we were in the political hustings. And I'm like, okay, enough.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. It's interesting to see what's going on, especially in Tobago, and how it will impact this next election. But it's interesting to see what's going on in Trinidad right now.
Right. So let's get into it now.
Yes.
At 4:23, let's get into it. The EBC report was laid in Parliament.
Yes.
That means it was passed in Parliament.
Yes.
Although there are challenges, you know, both opposition leader and prime minister said that there were challenges. One that I would agree with 100%, and I do have a question for you, and I'm hoping you can answer it. I asked Kyle. I see Kyle put nah. I told him, I said, I don't know what that nah means. Let me see. Hey, what is hey? Kyle wants to know if he could be on, and if you want him on in 10 minutes.
Yeah, let him come.
Well, you want to come and join Chris and I. and you could help us talk about the EBC report, because weren't you like somebody for UNC last election helping us out and stuff? So you can come and talk about the EBC, and then we'll move into Tobago. Yeah, man, come, join the line, pal. Join.
Right.
Yes. I know you have to leave, so you could join, and Chris will just host with me for the whole show. And Chris, yes, Chris is saying he'll host with me for the whole show, because we're trying to wait on Gavin to come out a meeting with the opposition leader, so we can get off the press what went on. So come, Chris.
I want to say something. Are we sure the meeting will happen at that time?
Well, as I said, that's why I say I hope that she can respect, because it was supposed to be what, 3:30. The media carried it at 3:30.
Okay, Marsha. All right.
Yeah, well, me, not me. And that's why I said
EBC. The people listening.
Right.
Yes.
So EBC, so the report was laid and passed in Parliament, even though there are significant challenges, even though the EBC is now coming to say, well, their list is a mess. Anybody working the list could tell you their list is a mess.
Correct. Yeah.
So my question to you would have been, how can you legally challenge, or can you legally challenge the EBC? Because in that same article today, where it talks about, they're way behind on their targets in cleaning up the list, the third to last paragraph said, that they put out a preliminary list, which we know they tend to put that out a few months before, and then they pull it back, and they say, if you have any, you'll check to see if your name on the list, if you have any discrepancies, whatever, come to the EBC, and so we could sort it out, and I guess hopefully it sorts out, and then you put forward this final list. So I was asking, because for me, what I had suggested with the UNC, and that was something that we heard, we were told, if someone is, dead, you must make notes of it. If someone is no longer living there, you must make notes of it. And the Diego Martin West list is particularly interesting in that it's that particular demographic, they migrate a lot. So
San Fernando West as well.
Right, similar demographic. So you find that they all get scholarships, they go to university, and they don't come back. So I have persons on my list who are 40 years old, and they've not been here since they left for university at 18. But they are on the list. Now some people will argue that they're still trainees, so if they wanted to come home to vote, they should be allowed to, or whatnot. I don't know how that works, but I also know people who, that's something, everybody registered where they grew up, where especially if your parents, so if you are renting and your parents live in that home, and so you grew up in that home, so all your meal goes to that home or whatever, but you ain't lived there for years, for decades, you have not lived there. You're supposed to vote where you live, and the Prime Minister would have spoken about that. He would have, so, if we know, so if, because, I don't like to play victim, so I don't like the whole wait on the EBC to clean up this list, and it hasn't been clean since, 2020? That's a long time, right? Not 2020, because 2020 will be, so 2000 or something, because it said 20 years ago, something like that. It was a long time that it hasn't been done. Can we, as if we were led by somebody who was progressive, who took initiative, visionary, stuff like that, we, so your point, let's say Chris and San Fernando West, and we have a team, and that team works the list. And that team is able to mount a proper defense to say, look, these people are dead one, And you know, and you get the death certificates and everything. So there's a proper pile. There's a proper, you know, just like, and that's where Kyle should have come, you know, because you know Kyle would be, you know, Kyle. If anybody saw it was the procurement legislation with where he was representing Calco Chris, and you
OPR,
know,
yeah.
right, and that cross examination. So you know, we send in somebody like Kyle who could do that kind of cross examination. He has his file, and he's saying these people, and there's some sort of legal challenge to force the EBC to clear up the list. That's what it was. You know, is that possible?
Well, so here's the thing. I think that in order for the EBC to be able to do that, I don't want to believe any commission in this country is complacent and don't want to do their job. I don't believe that. I don't believe that.
Well, I know they said they have no money.
But that's what I agree. If we look at the budget and the joint select, not the, is it the joint the finance committee, and every year every 5 years when we get to the election year we see the increased budget allocation, etc. But the other 4 years previously, what really happened, where we investing, because it takes, we're looking at money because we have to employ people, we have to send these persons out there to do the necessary census, then you have the persons who are collecting the data.
20 years, Chris.
Then but here's the thing though, if this issue is being mounted or comes from the United National Congress, you all were in government in 2010. And so what happened then? So that's why I can't get to a space of trying to say it's a PNM problem or
Oh
UNC.
no, I agree with that. I just want to find a solution. I want to find a solution.
Yeah,
So,
I
for
know you are
example,
not
if I
saying
am
that.
prepared to fund, let's say Diego Martin West, right? And you know, we work the list, and so for the next 5 years, let's pretend it was 2000, year 2000, and I say, okay, good. For the, you know, from now on, we're gonna go and we're gonna really work this list, and these are the discrepancies that we see already, because we know this person is dead. They're on the list. We know this person has migrated and whatnot and whatnot and whatnot. And so we now have a file that says this is Diego Martin West. We have worked this list, and these are our notes from the list. Certainly, there must be something.
There is something. I also don't think that the EBC is being less than forthright. I think they know that the inefficiencies occur, but they know that the solution to this is increased funding for them to do the necessary hiring of persons to get the job done.
Well, then what's the point of telling us if there are discrepancies to come to them?
I don't know. I think it's an admission, which is good, right? It's good. And I think they perhaps.
No, but then you're putting out a list every election time, and saying it's a draft list. If their discrepancies come, are you resourced and are you prepared to deal with the discrepancies if we came with them?
That's a good question that should be asked to the EBC.
To the EBC.
That's a good question.
Media houses.
That's a good question. You in journalism, you should ask EBC that. But I think what is important coming out of this, and I really wanted to treat with one thing first. I'm going
to ask Kyle my question. I could ask Kyle the same question.
Definitely.
Kyle, if I took the time and I went through the Diego Martin West EBC list, and I found dead people on the list, and I've secured the death certificates and all of that, can I, because the EBC says, you know, if you find discrepancies on the list, bring it to them. If they don't take me on and they don't fix the list, do I have any legal recourse?
Yes, of course. You could file a judicial review against the EBC for not conducting their statutory duties. You may even be able to bring a constitutional motion, because it would involve the constitutionally protected right to vote, meaning that it affects your right to vote, because if your right to vote is being unfairly hindered because your list, or the list in which you participate in your area, is filled with persons who have died, and therefore there's a real risk of tampering with the voter list or persons going to utilize votes of persons who may have died, I could see that being a constitutional challenge as well. But your primary attack would be by way of judicial review. So you would submit the list with the death certificates to the EBC. You would write to the CEO. You would say, Madam CEO, I have conducted a personal investigation as a public interest and public spirited citizen. I have found persons who have died. Here are the death certificates. I still see their names appearing on the EBC list. And before the next election, I want them removed. I would like them to be removed because obviously it opens up the risk of someone using their name to wrongly vote or to commit voter fraud, increases the risk of voter fraud, or it's just an encumbrance on the list and you have a duty to remove these things. So you should be
What
able to
about
do that if you file a claim.
and what about in the cases where people have not lived where they vote for decades? So
Yeah, if you have, it's a little harder to prove because then you'd probably have to get some
what their
I would
bills,
think
their
some
whatever.
bills and tax, land tax, those type of receipts to show that they're not paying. You get some affidavits by neighbors, etc., and you could say, well, those persons aren't there. A little more work,
But the
but
point
they would
is, once you can
investigate it.
prove, once you can bring sufficient evidence to prove
Yeah.
that, well, they so that would be a second one. What about those who have? I was saying to Chris, they may argue that it's their constitutional right to vote if they wanted to. But in Diego Martin West in particular, just like San Fernando West, you have a lot of persons that study abroad and never come back home. So they have never voted. Their list, their name came on the list. They've left home since they're 18 years old. They're 40, 50 years old, and they've never been home. Their parents live in the house. So you'd see
That one is a little more tricky because they are a citizen of Trinidad and Tobago and
they
they're
are,
entitled
and
to
that's what I was
vote.
there.
Yeah,
So
and
if they
therefore
wanted
it
to
would
come
be in
home,
the
they
area.
could come home to
They
vote.
could, yeah, they could come on because they are a citizen, they're entitled to vote.
Yes.
And their only address or the nearest address of permanent abode will be the one that you have. So I think that one's a little more difficult.
Yeah.
But certainly
But
persons who
certainly
have
in the
died and
case where
persons,
they've died or they've not lived where they vote
yeah, where they are, yeah,
in
for sure.
decades.
Yep,
So
I
you
think
see,
those
Chris. So
are
there is,
credible.
he gave us a very direct.
Yes, so there is legal recourse.
So here's my question now then. Or Chris, you want to ask a question? I feel we're thinking on the same wavelength. Why would the Prime Minister then stand up in Parliament and say they have dead people on the list? So if you know there are dead people on the list, why not engage in that same process? Why hasn't PNM engaged in the process to say, look, we have these amount of dead people on the list, and engage in the legal process? Force to clean up. Instead of standing up in Parliament and be like,
Well, it should be the function of EBC because EBC is supposed to be an independent body. So I think what the PNM could do is be, as a political party, be the catalyst and certainly get it done. Any party could do that. Any citizen could do that.
What I mean. So that's what I was asking, Chris. So for example, I mean, I think that, if the UNC had leadership that was really interested in being progressive, we would have in every single constituency a team that would be working on that EBC list. I think that that's the job of the elections officer, but I may be wrong. And they would, over every day, and if you work on it consistently, it's not going to cost millions of dollars. It only costs millions of dollars when you try to do it rushed today for today.
Yeah.
But, out of election season, you have your executives working on that list, making sure that the list is up to date. And so that you can have a proper file with all the evidence that you need, working with whatever lawyer it is attached to that constituency. So I could say to you, Kyle, we've worked on the list in Diego Martin. You will be my lawyer in Diego Martin, and I will, this is it. This is the file. And so we know that this is, because then, I mean, you're talking boundaries, we're talking changes, we're talking all sorts of things, when really and truly we're using outdated data to do it. Does it make any sense?
I think it is the job of anybody. Well, first of all, I would say it's the duty of any citizen to your civic duty that if there are issues with the electoral list and they come to your attention, you should try to do something about it. But more importantly, I think it's part of the political process, and the political parties that are engaged in electoral competition ought to be doing that exact process you spoke about. They should be combing through the electoral lists, ensuring it's a list that um, has some degree of sanctity that they're satisfied they could take into an election. And if you're not sanitizing the list, well, sanitizing might be the wrong word, but if you're not looking at the list carefully, ensuring that it's the most, let's say, fair list and accurately represented list of the constituency, then you really aren't doing your job. I mean, I can't say if the UNC is doing it or not. My participation with constituencies, I mean, I've helped the St. Joseph constituency recently, and I know that some work is going on there by the activists. I could definitely say for St. Joseph, from my knowledge, there is some work going on there, but I can't speak to the others. You're right. It seems to be the job of the electoral officer of the party to be doing it, the elections
Yeah, because
officer.
the work that's happening in St. Joseph, I can say that those similar mandates, but were given to others, right?
Right.
Which is why I'm saying, if it is that we theoretically should have this information, what are we doing with that information?
Correct. I mean, it's just good strategy, right? If you're a political party, you should want to ensure. Well, I mean, it starts, where you have vigilance by your activists. You want to make sure that 3 months before the elections, you don't have a set of people coming in all of a sudden and pretending to live somewhere and wrongly registering. That's one. Your street captains would comb each street in the constituency and ensure that they know who are the voters, which houses, how many people live in the houses, etc. Then there's the other level. You have to know everybody who's going to be turning 18 just before the election, and you get them registered, and you get them, especially if it's people you think that would support you. And then that's the machinery. And then all that's left is to ensure that your list, which should have been verified on the election list, the official EBC list, comes out and votes.
Yeah,
That's the
if
election
only.
system. That's the party electoral system as I know it.
All right,
I've
you
done
came
it.
and took over from Chris. So
Right.
Chris was saying Chris was saying something before you came. And I know you have to talk Tobago autonomy as well and then leave us. So Chris, you're gonna be my co-host, I told you.
Oh,
So
Lord.
do you have questions for him or you have a comment to add?
I don't have any questions for him as it relates to the EBC report. I think this is something that is laid before an election and it is debated, and the same issues arise regardless of who is in opposition or in government. I think fighting the EBC in Parliament is not going to help you. I think the race is won with your election machinery on the day of election. I think that is really what political parties or ambitious political parties should be doing, and they should be
So
engaging in right now.
now that the ABC list, now that the ABC
What came out of the list? Yes, so there were a few things
but
that
it
came
means
out.
that how long now? So it not because we could not. So all the talk about early elections, we really could not have an early election without this report being passed. Correct?
But there were a few things that came out of the list that I wanted to just so there were a few name changes.
Yes.
Mhm.
And of course there was some debatable moments in the parliament regarding constituencies. So some of the constituencies in terms of the name changes would have been Point Up to Claxtonby. Aruka Maloney is now going to be called Trincity Maloney. Dabadi O'Mara will now be Malabar Mausaka. Lopino Bonner West is now going to be Aruka Lopino, and St. Joseph will now be Arangwe St. Joseph. And well, that was based on EBC's method. I think my personal opinion is I think this idea of calling it Claxtonby Point Up here, I know that they would have. I think it should still stay Point Up here, or it should be Point Up here Claxtonby. I don't understand why we're losing the Point Up here aspect. But the same thing could be said about some other seats like Mayaro or Separia, where if you look at where it begins and where it ends, yeah. So then there would have been this discussion about PDs and what PDs will shift into what constituency and how this is going to impact the election and if it's a UNC PD and if it's a PNM PD, etc. So, and I know that persons don't know this because I was like, I want to know what is the metric, what is the method, what is the calculated method, how does the EBC arrive at this? And so there's an average limit for each constituency is actually 28,079 electors, right? And now, according to the law, you're allowed to have 10% upper and 10% lower, yes? And so there were 4 seats that would have been above that limit. And then there were a few that would have been below the limit. So the 4 that would have been above would have been Toco, Sani Grande, Dabdi Omera, Kamoto Manzanilla, and Caroni Central. And so some PDs would have been shifted, bordering constituencies would have been shifted in order for those constituencies that were above it. Some would have been taken out and put into other constituencies to ensure that it would have been in accordance with the law. Yes. But the real contentious seat or constituency are the marginal ones, which would have been San Fernando West and of course I think it was just San Fernando West because I think Pointe-a-Pitre was a Tabaquite constituency that came over, so you heard no discussion about that, right? But what was interesting to me is that I heard a lot of discussion. I heard some political pundits speaking about the 2 PDs that came over. So I'll explain to, for the benefits of the listening audience. In San Fernando West, you all would know it's a marginal constituency. Whoever wins San Fernando West would ultimately win the election. And this is traditional. If you look at election results,
That's St. Joseph, boy, not San Fernando West.
San Fernando West, St. Joseph, well, sometimes, right? Yes, but in the past decade, it has been like that, right?
So I'll give it to you because I know you're from there.
Yes, right, yes. And we need to speak about the candidates as well, because there are some
we still have to speak about the candidates.
Prospective candidates from several constituencies.
We're going to break the EBC report just now, so that Kyle, are you here with us till 6?
No, I have to leave in about 15 minutes.
So I'll do this in 2 minutes.
Yes.
So, so the 2 PDs that came over from San Fernando East to have San Fernando West meet the lower limit would have been the PD 4005 and 4006. Now, I heard a lot of discussion coming out of that debate, again, on social media, even in the parliament, regarding those 2 PDs, how they are PNM PDs, and how dare you, and it's going to impact the UNC's chance at the polls, etc. And well, I went to the 2020 EBC report because I want to know how did these political parties perform in 4005 and 4006. And well, Marsha, you'll be very interested to hear that in 4005, the PNM got 135 votes and the UNC got 115 votes. So we're looking at about 20 votes more. You know you run in an election, how inconsequential that is. And then we're looking at 4006, where the PNM got 80 votes. And do you know how much the UNC got? 187. So it is very
making San Fernando West more UNC.
Yeah, but it's negligible. It's a negligible amount. I find it in really it's not going to impact any big way. I think when it comes down
but it's so what you're trying to say, because I find like you're not saying it, I'd knock my water bottle down.
What I'm trying to say is that
is this a level of propaganda and misinformation?
We cannot continue to vilify the EBC, because when you win, it was free and fair. And should you lose, well, you would have already painted a narrative that the EBC, is stacked against you. But I know we're going to come back to this conversation because we have limited time with Kyle. So let's just switch to the Tobago autonomy.
Now, I know you love Tobago politics, so you may have lots of questions for him. But Kyle generally does not need anybody to ask him questions. He's just so good. So, Kyle, because I know that you are like TikTok worthy, I'm going to ask you, before you start to talk, adjust your camera
You're
because
light.
your face, your name is right. Good. So he's ready for TikTok now. Kyle, two things. I've seen the chair of the Tobago Business Chambers, Martin George, says that autonomy needs to be defined. I think persons are mixing up secession with autonomy. So they somehow think that Tobago wants to be independent, for want of a better term, rather than be like a state in the United States.
Right.
So those are two things that maybe you can lead with, unless you
Well,
just want to start fresh. But I know that those are two things, just based on the comments that you see all around the place, that there seems to be a misunderstanding of what autonomy means.
yeah. Well,
Um,
let's take it. Let's take it.
and well, Martin George saying that it needs to be defined.
Well, let's take it historically, right? Historically, territories need political systems to govern them. Territories don't necessarily have convenient borders. So you may have borders where you have a large landmass like America, like Russia, or you may have territories which expand into several islands or different islands. What has developed historically in terms of political systems, you have something called a unitary political system or unitary state, and you have a federalist system where you have a devolution of power. So, for instance, let's take Australia. Australia is actually um, federalist, meaning that there are each state in Australia has independent constitutions. They have different laws, but they are still the state of Australia. So political power is disseminated throughout the regions. It's the same with America. Russia is different. Russia, and of course, because of its autocratic nature, but it has a centralized political system where all decisions are made by a central power. And there are different examples throughout. You have the scenario with United Kingdom. You have Britain, Scotland, Ireland, etc., which all form part of a union. Now, when it comes to Trinidad and Tobago, it is clear that traditionally or historically we've had a unitary state. Tobago has always been a part of Trinidad and Tobago. We are the unitary state of Trinidad and Tobago. What has happened over the years, and we cannot deny Tobago, well, in my respectful view, I don't think we could deny that Tobago has developed to have its own, idiosyncrasies, its own unique culture, its own unique norms, and with that comes its own unique problems, and it needs, to some extent, its own unique solutions. That does not mean that Tobago is seeking some form of independence, or as you have put it, secession from Trinidad and Tobago. What I define the Tobago call, let's put it like that, what I see Tobago asking for is the ability to govern themselves and to solve the unique problems which Tobago have. So, so we have the historically we had the THA Act, which first came in 1980, and then was revised, I believe, somewhere in 1991, 95, etc. And now you have a proposal by the THA where it says, look, we can't just be handling administrative things in Tobago. We have real problems that we need to solve as Tobagonians. We need more power to be devolved from the central government of Trinidad into Tobago and allow us to solve our problems. So one of the issues that Tobago keeps talking about is the issue of policy, meaning they want to be able to decide certain matters of law and certain matters of regulation that affects the Tobago problem. So if there are, let's say, maritime issues, meaning treating with their coastline, treating with their tourism sector, etc., they want to be able to pass a law that is unique to Tobago to treat with, let's say, their yachting industry or their sailing industry or their fishing industry, etc. Trinidad may not necessarily have that as a priority because, of course, our industry and our economy is really based on oil and gas and other things. So the legislative agenda in Trinidad might be different, but it may not be so for Tobago. And they're asking for the ability to essentially be allowed to pass laws in order to govern the unique problems of Tobago. Currently, you have something called the Fifth Schedule in the THA Act. The Fifth Schedule allows the THA to take certain decisions in relation to certain prescribed matters that happen in Tobago. All I think that they're asking for is allow us to legislate on those matters too. Now, that does not mean, let's take a wild or broad example. That doesn't mean that if Trinidad has a legal definition for what murder is, Tobago is going to change the definition, have a different law. So in Trinidad, you could do something and commit murder, but in Tobago, it's going to be different. That's not what they're asking for. There are certain industries in Tobago, let's say like the tourism sector, obviously, the hotelier system, import duties, etc. That Tobago says, look, we know what is best for us here, and we want to be able to pass the requisite laws and regulations in order to allow quick, responsive changes that will benefit our economy and our people. And what is so wrong with that? And what you really have is in my respectful view, the People's National Movement, which is a unitary political party. Let's get that straight. There's no difference between Tobago PNM and Trinidad PNM. And I think that is the serious problem that is affecting Tobago. You have a PNM government that has a Tobago PNM arm, right? Now, when the Tobago PNM and the Trinidad PNM are in government, there's no problem. You get what you want. But obviously, when the Tobago people have different political preferences, you have a tension between a PNM political government and the Tobago current executive. And therefore, they need, and what you will have also for political reasons, naturally, is certain things are going to be frustrated happening in Tobago. And we see that happening. And I'm sure the Chief Secretary would be able to give you numerous examples of it. So to solve that problem, to ensure that the people of Tobago are not beholden to a political directorate in Trinidad, which may not necessarily be of their choice, they want to be able to legislate on certain specific matters in Tobago. I mean, a clear example of what took place in this Tobago bill that was brought to the Parliament. There is a budgetary allocation in the Constitution for Tobago. We know that. They have to get a certain amount. The bill proposes to set up a mediation system in the event that there's a dispute. So the Chief Sec gets two persons on this. Let's call it a arbitration panel. The Chief Sec gets two. The Prime Minister gets two. And guess who gets the deciding vote for the chairman? The President. Who selects the President? And those are the kind of problems that the THA had put forward. They said, well, if you all are going to do a system, consult us, or why not? And I think this is the better solution. Let the current political leadership of Tobago propose a bill on how Tobago people should be governed. They didn't win by 1 seat or 2 seats in Tobago, right? It was a whitewash, which I don't think the PNM has politically, psychologically recovered from. And this is why we may have all these problems. I mean, I don't mean to get too political here, but we're getting into silly season, as I say. So I will throw in a little wild comment now and then, right?
I want to ask a question.
Go ahead.
So you're saying, so you've thrown out the possibility of someone else making the proposal. I've seen a lot of people calling for maybe a referendum. I don't know how I feel about that. But what are your views on it? Or certainly, maybe, I don't know if there's a quasi referendum where you have the stakeholders having some, so some percentage of a vote, some version of that they represent. So, they have a vote and this one represents this person and they have a vote, something that really allows us to know that this is what the people of Tobago want.
Well, we do have a referendum. It's called an election. So when we have an election, if people feel strongly enough about changes legislatively, then they have to vote accordingly. In terms of what people, I suppose their psyche understands a referendum, and I suppose Brexit was the closest big referendum that they know about. You would have to pass specific indigenous legislation in Trinidad to give a referendum any effect. In fact, you would have to amend the constitution, because currently the constitution says that it is only the parliament that passes law for good governance of Trinidad and Tobago. In order for there to be another source of law, meaning a law that the parliament necessarily has not passed, and it's passed by what you call direct democracy, meaning you put it on the ballot for people to decide, you would need to amend the constitution to say, well, by referendum, the people of Trinidad and Tobago can also make adjustments to legislation, and that would, so you would need to set up the legislative and constitutional mechanism for a referendum to have legal effect. I mean, there's nothing wrong if we just say let's have a referendum as to what people want. It was done, for instance, in some islands for the Privy Council because the government wanted to know, well, what did the people think about whether they should abolish the Privy Council or not. And in most cases, people kept the Privy Council in the island. But that's an example. The Tobago question, for me, has already been decided. This political current party who is there have won an election in Tobago overwhelmingly. They won on a political platform of giving Tobago more power, more governance, and pressing for Tobago rights or self-governance. That was their platform. The people reposed confidence in them through an election, and they won the election convincingly. So why not, instead of a bill being drafted in Balize House in Trinidad, again, that's a political platform for the season, instead of a bill being drafted in Trinidad to be imposed on the people of Tobago, why not have their political party or directorate of choice come up with a bill, send it to Trinidad, send it to the parliament, and then the parliament of Trinidad and Tobago could look at it and decide if they want to accept it, amend it, or reject it. Why can't we have that process? Why do we have a bill being drafted by who knows and being imposed on the chief sec and his executive and by extension the people of Tobago, and they have to be sending amendments and pressing? That's not the way democracy, that's a slap in the face of democracy. The people of Tobago are entitled to decide their own fate, future, and governance. So we need to give them that confidence. We need to express that confidence in them. The time when we see Tobago as a vacation place for us to go is over. It is clear that Tobago wants to govern themselves and step into the light of democracy. So let's let it happen. Let them be able to take some of their own decisions. That doesn't mean secession. That means equality and respect. I don't want to use the analogy of a partnership, a sort of business partnership, but that's what we have. We have a partnership with Tobago. They are part of us, but they are somewhat separate us because they have their own unique problems, challenges, and culture and identity. We need to respect that, recognize it, and allow them some power to treat with their issues. I can't see what is the problem with that, or why we have taken so long to, well, it hasn't happened, but why are we taking so long for governance, self-governance of Tobago to be solved? Can't be right.
Do you know if the current THA, if they do have such a bill ready, and
Well, I know, I mean, if you follow social media, I think the chief sec is perhaps one of the most active politicians. I think every week he's in a consultation in some community. I even saw some videos with, people basically get to go up and ask him any question they want, berate him too, and he sits there, he takes it, he answers with a real dignified humility and professionalism, and I admire it to some extent. So I see it. So I'm sure he and his staff and his executive understand what the people of Tobago need, and they could propose a bill again, and it's not automatic. They could propose something, and the Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago will consider it. That
I'm
should be
going
the
to ask
process.
you a question.
Change should come from the bottom up.
So there's a question coming from YouTube. I'll part answer and then you could add to it. So the question is, why isn't there a representative from Tobago House of Assembly representing their island in Trinidad Parliament? Well, first of all, it's the Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago, but I do understand what he's trying to say. So there is technically a representative for Tobago there because we have 2 Tobago seats. But I guess he wants to have somebody from the THA inside of Parliament.
Well, the national elections do provide for that. There are 2 seats where the people of Tobago are technically given representation in the parliamentary system. But I understand what they're saying, that the THA should have a voice in the treating of this matter. And I think one of the solutions, I think, is certainly that the constitution could be amended so that maybe instead of the president nominating every independent senator, why not have the THA allowed to also nominate an independent senator or two, so that the Tobago voice is directly heard from a elected administration of Tobago in the Senate of Trinidad and Tobago. I think that would be a good idea to strike that the balance, and that's a good question by the person viewing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so that is a good suggestion. Use it through the Senate. Allow the THA chief
To
secretary
nominate two independent
to
senators,
nominate.
yeah, or two
Yeah,
senators.
that's a good idea. That's a good idea. Of course, I don't know what is the name of Farley's party.
I think it's the Tobago People's Party, TPP.
Okay, right, Tobago's People's Party. We'll call it Farley Party for now.
Oh, no, our resident Tobago political expert is back.
Yes, I know he loves it. Come on, Chris, tell us what TPP. Okay, so
TPP,
so
yeah, the Tobago Super Party, yeah.
Right, so they answered it on YouTube for us. So you have seen that, and the deputy chief sec, Dr. Israel, so she actually said, that they are gearing up for general elections. I know that the chief sec himself said that, look, the way to solve this, one, we're going and put two of our own MPs in there. So they are gearing up. They've said it. They are going to, fight the general election as a Tobago party. So they're not trying to be a national party and put 41 candidates and whatever. Right? And they've said that this is their way of ensuring that the people of Tobago are represented inside of central government. So
I think that's
so to the YouTuber, so to our YouTube fan, Caribbean Soul is his name there. Then that's the way that the people of Tobago can ensure that somebody from Farley party is inside of parliament. Vote
I think that's as simple as it sounds. I think that is the best answer to the problem. It's often said that democracy is the least best system that we have, right? Because there are flaws with democracy. But the democratic system that we have allows people to vote for a representative to have a voice in parliament. And therefore, if the people of Tobago feel strongly enough, they should vote for a party that advocates their self-determination views. And in my respectful view, I don't think the PNM is doing that. I think because the PNM they have not done it. And I think because the PNM is a unitary political party, meaning a PNM party of Tobago and PNM, they are not seeking the interests of the people of Tobago. They're actually seeking the interests of their political party to ensure that they maintain control of Trinidad and Tobago.
I think that's what Farley had said. You have the issue of the two Tobago MPs having to toe the PNM party line.
They
do. So, and a lot of persons, I think we've spoken about that before. But just for those who maybe missed that episode, there is unfortunately, and whether it's time to have the conversation or not, people will say, no, but we vote for you, but then you're voting with your party, you're not voting with the people. But there is a space that we've inherited called the Westminster system, and we have to toe the party line, unless there's a conscience vote, unless the whip is removed. And I think the average citizen does not quite understand that. So they think that it's a matter of integrity. Well, in fact, your integrity will be a problem if you keep not voting with the whip, because this is something you would have signed up for. You would have signed up to be a parliamentarian, to operate under such rules. And now you have no discipline and don't want to follow the system that you've signed up under. So I think a lot of persons don't quite understand that there's a way that a parliamentarian has to vote.
It's has to vote, meaning that yes, they can exercise an independent vote, except there are consequences.
Yeah, and it's not as easy. There may be a case
from the political party, and then you're out of the parliament. So that's
and there may have been a case where you could really champion if you have a big voice, and you could champion and you could say, listen, I'm asking for this, remove the whip or something. You could try something. But by and large,
Well,
it's not so
the way
easy.
that the way that a Westminster system deals with that is that you resign. And in England, if a
You can
member of
cross the floor.
cabinet or parliament disagrees and they resign, it sends a very, very, very strong message to the electorate and the people of England that someone who was selected because they were once in favor and a supporter of the political party has now resigned out of disagreement. It sends a very strong. I remember, I think when Tony Blair was taking the UK into war in the Iraqi war, several persons resigned in protest, and it sent shockwaves politically. Brexit, I think you had the same issue up to recently under um, Mr. Sunak's government. There were some resignations, and that's how you treat with it. You resign. If you have a problem, you resign, and that sends a very strong message throughout the political system. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
So
I think I unfortunately I do have to leave in a bit.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
So Kyle, thank you very, very much.
Anytime.
As always, he comes, he takes over the show. He's a star, and then he leaves. He's
Well,
our
yes.
legal star.
I want to
rock
make a
star.
political joke that I was not on the start team, but anyway, we'll leave that.
Oh yeah, you're welcome with political.
I apologize, Chris. It's my sense of humor causes a problem, I think, sometimes. Take care, guys.
Well, Chris said it
Enjoy
was
your
silly
afternoon.
season, so he's put on
Very,
his
very rainy.
political
Everybody
hat.
be safe on the road. I want to tell you viewers, I was driving. I had to go to a conference and I got like literally 3 or 4 bad drives and very close, very, very bad driving on this road. So everybody, please
I
stay
don't know
safe
if
on
it's
the road.
Christmas, but I
Could be.
was on the road doing errands yesterday, and I just said, "What is going on? Everybody
Yeah,
seems to
yeah.
be in a real
In
rush."
a rush, and
Yeah,
today's weather is extremely bad. So everybody be careful. Okay?
no problem. Thanks,
Bye bye.
Kyle.
Take care. Bye.
Okay,
Take
Chris,
care.
talk
Mhm.
for a little bit because I'm so going
I
to.
think so. I'm listening on at the conversation regarding
Yeah,
Tobago.
because I'm going to message to see. You're not listening. I'm going to message to see how the meeting going. So talk.
well, whilst you do that, I'm going to give you my opinion. I think that this is a very interesting time to have this conversation. Reason being, I think Tobago autonomy. If we understand the history of Tobago, and Tobago legislator, by the way, is older than our parliament. I don't know if persons know that. And they actually had a governance system, and they were been under the governance by the British way longer before us. So Tobago has, when we speak about Trinidad and Tobago, there's this negative connotation, and I know Trinidadians sometimes like to believe it. You'll see it on social media that it's almost as though Tobago is benefiting from Trinidad, when in reality, I think that what they're asking for in this is to say, let us clearly define what is Tobago waters, Tobago land, what is Trinidad waters, what is Trinidad land. So now we can have a very interesting conversation to the negotiation and financial power and autonomy. I don't see it as a bad thing. The bad thing I see here is that in the attempt to get autonomy conversations right, it's a long process. It's a messy process, but it's a process that we must be able and willing to engage and listen. And this is again silly season. So for this to be brought up now, I think it's a bad timing for it to be brought up, because to me, if we're really genuine about getting Tobago autonomy right, which we must be able to get it right, I think it can't be a haphazard manner. And I'm not saying that it is, I'm saying the timing. I think
The
that this
time.
time is bad. And I know I have to credit the government a bit. I think the government did include a few amendments. If you listened, and I listened, and they did. But of course, there are some
But
things that
that's not what TPP saying. But they said
correct.
and
They
they're saying that
defined.
any amendment that they included were
So,
like
so the government actually
name
defined.
changes.
So the government actually defined, and they brought forward the amendment to define Tobago, and of course being the land, and I think it was 10 or 11 nautical miles, and that was a step. But what TPP is saying is that you forget to mention and define Trinidad. So is the undefined considered Trinidad? And so there's that
Right,
debate.
because I
And
think
yeah,
Dr. Israel was talking about they have some waters just off of Tobago that would not have been
Charlottesville,
defined.
correct.
Yeah,
Block 22.
yeah.
What is it? It's oh gosh, the Calypso
The
Field.
Calypso
Yeah.
Fields. Yeah.
So
Well, the
yes.
Calypso Field, I think, is once it's defined, you'd see that it's there. But yeah, there is some lacking in the definitions.
And again, I disagree with the time. I not disagree with the conversation, and I know political parties would have their ideology and policies, etc., as to what they stand by. Is it to win an election? Is it to govern? It could be both. It could be none. But my issue is the time. I think that in order for us to get it right, we have to be able to listen. But I want to get back to the
The
election,
EBC.
the
Yeah.
EBC. Yes. So, Marsha, I think also two PDs came across from Oropouche East into San Fernando East. Yeah. So what we're seeing here, I think EBC has their job to do. They have their mandate in which they execute this. And I think the battle will be on the ground. It will be in how great the opposition forces are able to unite or align. And when it comes to political negotiation, which is very important, it's not about just uniting because you want to beat the PNM. There must be ideologies. There must be, because if my memory serves me right, the People's National Movement, and by the way, I wanted to ensure, and I should have said this first, that I didn't want to come on today to discuss governance and government and who was a better this and who, because all those things are subjective and perspective, and that we could have a different way to discuss that. But we're discussing political parties and the political landscape. I think the People's National Movement is a blueprint in the Caribbean when it comes to
I agree.
being a political organization.
I
I
agree.
think they have stood the
As much
test
as
of
they're a
time.
cult, I agree.
I think they have stood the test of time. And I think what we're seeing now is the political evolution and rejuvenation of the PNM, which is what I wanted to also speak about.
But they do that all the time, Chris.
But here's the difference, Marsha. Here's the difference. And this is a very
I don't
interesting
like the PNM.
Marsha, that is okay. Marsha,
I agree
I
that
am the
they
show
can
to give an
win
opinion.
elections. I agree that they're
Yeah.
disciplined. But I remember when Manning ran his course,
Mm-hmm.
the PNM revived.
So what I
now
want to
you
say is
see
this.
Rowley run his course, you're seeing that sort of hinting towards
Succession planning. But what I want to say is this. The People's National Movement knows very well that the key to winning the election is to having a united movement and mobilizing their members. What did we see so far in the announcement of the prospective candidates? We saw that the same persons being tossed around the line for who will lead or who will be the next leader. All of them. And I don't want to bring anyone into the conversation because, as you mentioned, people put targets on their back, right? But in politics, and I should mention no,
but you're right.
No,
and so I could mention the names if you want.
I can mention them. So we're going to look at Foster Cummins, Stuart Young, Penelope Beckers, Faris Al-Rawi. Who am I missing out? We hear maybe Amory will get a seat. But so the point is, these persons who we're seeing leaders or leadership qualities in them, etc. Dr. Rowley said, you know what? If I am to get rid, and I'm assuming, this is my assumption. I'm here on the show to analyze, and in my analysis, I'm saying that Dr. Rowley, in his wisdom, said, in order for the People's National Movement to sustain government, the PNM must have a united party and base. So he's going to keep everyone, even if there's competition or whatever.
And when you look at it, Amory was Manning's boy. And well, you have Manning's son. So there is this clear separation of emotions and pettiness.
Because again, the PNM is the blueprint of political parties in the Caribbean.
They're disciplined and they are an organization. It is way more than one person. So as much as Rowley may not have liked Manning, or we can even look at it Manning may not have liked Rowley, but Rowley remained. He
But when you look
remained
at
the MP for Diego Martin.
the United National Congress, if we look at the last internal election, because it's the context that will set the precedence for where we are now.
But it's not even need to internal election. I mean, Chris, if somebody on YouTube even say, but you know, I like you for political leader, you had to try and delete that before somebody see.
But
That's how bad it is.
The point I want to make, Marsha, is United Patriots did garner a number of support in the UNC election. As a matter of fact,
Mayaro won Mayaro.
They did not only won in Mayaro, they also won in Tobago, by the way. If you didn't know, fun fact. So, if you are to, because by the shifting of the seats in the parliament, which I find was quite aggressive, passive aggressive, the shifting of the seats in parliament to me demonstrated that now we have 3 benches. You have the PNM, you have the United Patriots, and you have the Star Team. Because that's what it looks like to me. I mean, I'm looking on I don't know what's happening behind the scenes. I'm looking on. I'm part of I'm forming your electorate that's going to vote on what you're putting forward. And if you were, I'm just saying, to get rid, based on the way you did with the seats, to get rid of Rushton Parry, the seat of Mayaro, for some, and there are some MPs in the same UNC who don't know this, that the seat of Mayaro once was Ottawa Mayaro, and I would have been broken up. By the way, the member of parliament for that seat at a point in time was a guy named Franklin Cann, former Minister of Energy. May he rest in peace. I actually had the honor of meeting him when I did Youth Parliament. A wonderful man, by the way. And so, Rushton Parry, if you were to get rid of him, who have successfully retained the marginal seat in 2 consecutive terms, he would have built machinery, built support, and also won in the internal election. You are to get rid of him. I think there's the chances that you can lose the seat. The chances that you can lose, and this is why I say this, because it will not only look like partisan political victimization, but then you have your divided UNC base. You have the Star supporters, and then you have the Patriot supporters, and then you have the some that will say, but Parry, we love you. Parry, I had to go up independent, or Parry, we are voting. We're not voting UNC. And so that is that kind of conflict. The UNC has to try their best to stay away from. UNC must be trying to practice addition politics, not subtraction, because politics is about addition, And the PNM sees it because look at what they did with Tahaka Obika, who the UNC laughed at when he crossed the floor. But quite recently, I think Tahaka Obika would have created history in this country because he was not only a senator that served under the United National Congress, but he also served under the People's National Movement. I find that to be iconic. Some persons find it a joke. I find it to be history that has been created in this country. So we look at even the member of parliament for Tabaquite, who has shifted down, who was once the public relations officer and maybe the best public relations officer the UNC has ever seen. And what will be her faith when she goes before the screening committee? If you were to get rid of Anita Haynes Allen, maybe you might just still win Tabaquite because it's a very safe UNC seat. Yeah, but Anita Haynes Allen is not someone you want to have against you in the media. I mean, we all have seen her communication abilities.
I think also, I mean, whether she will just ride quietly out into the sunsets and not get involved so that she wouldn't be against you. But I think what Anita did was spoke to the independent voter.
I think she increased the political currency. I think she increased the political currency.
No, I mean, well, I'm not speaking necessarily to Anita, but I'm speaking to in terms of the UNC strategy.
Yeah.
Anita had the ability to widen the base of the UNC.
I think she still has the ability.
Yeah. Well, when I say had, meaning if, she's not there.
Yes.
So there was a space for her, that she brought something to the UNC that is not easily replaced. And going back to PNM, and I mean, it's really unfortunate because PNM cannot govern the country. while they're a good political party, they cannot govern Trinidad and Tobago.
Marsha didn't come to talk
So
governing.
right, okay, so we didn't come to talk governance. So we're discussing political parties,
Political
fine. But I
strategies,
have to keep
messaging,
saying it
campaign.
because I don't want anybody to look at them as a political party and confuse that to mean that they can be good government. So I have to keep putting that disclaimer, Chris. So let me finish.
My question is, do you have confidence in the United National Congress in its current form, in its national executive?
No. But on two fronts. So on two fronts though, because I can say, and I mean, I don't apologize for it. I think PNM is a well-run organization.
The blueprint.
The blueprint, fine. But they cannot govern. UNC, this particular UNC, not UNC generally. Yeah? Because I think the Pandey UNC may not have been.
Michaela Pandey, how you feel about
let me talk about Basio Pandey first. So I think that the UN, they would have been younger, so it would not have been a strong organization at the time. Whether under him it could have grown or not, we'll see. But it was a good government. Right now, in this day in history, the UNC is neither can be a good government, because I've said it before and I will say it again. If a miracle happens and this version of the UNC gets into government, we will possibly have a 1990 or serious uprising, because this particular UNC cannot govern, and they will be governing at a time where you need to turn a sinking ship around. So you need a government that is charismatic, because it's going to take time. So you're going to have to pacify a country that's literally just ready to boil over because they can't take anymore.
Okay, but
I don't
Marsha,
think the UNC has that.
So all of that you're saying, all of that, but you are speaking about in government. The conversation.
No, so I'm saying both. So PNM is a good political party, but not a good government. UNC, not a good political party, not a good government.
But the ability, we're speaking today about the ability to get into government. Do you think that the United National Congress is doing the right things, or doing the...
No, of course not. No. I just said it. I said, so you spoke about Anita.
Yeah.
Whether the UNC likes it or not, the UNC does not have a big enough base to just say they could go it on their own. And the numbers
and may I also say that the UNC base has contracted, and there are infractions now, because you have the Star base, you have the United Patriots base, and a base that is something that not many people want to accept, but you have the Michaela Pandey base coming out of the UNC.
Yeah.
So there are now 3 bases within the UNC. And I think the UNC, by the way, they're having a meeting with a number of political parties. 2 things I look at in politics. One,
and a few more candidates. That's another issue, Chris. That's another issue. You keep talking about general election can be called anytime. General election can be called anytime. But you've announced 3 candidates as opposed to PNM, who's announced 32 candidates. And the only reason you cannot do that is because anytime any one of those MPs, other than your Fab 5, here and they ain't getting back their seat, we will see who really loyal or not. They will be joining the Fab 5 quick. Anytime they hear they're not getting back their seat. So let's talk frank. She has to hold that until the very end. She has to hold it until Parliament is dissolved.
I think she has to hold it until 11:59, nomination night eve.
Very true.
Nomination day eve.
As she did before.
And where we know about Couva North. But what I will say, though, is the United National Congress, or any opposition, let me say this, because this is the example I want to use, the People's National Movement. The PNM knew when they had 12 seats in the parliament, they needed to practice addition politics. Yes?
Yeah.
And so who did they meet with? They met with the DNA. At that time, the political leader would have been Dr. Kirk Megu, who would have been instrumental, and you could find the it's out there, in leading the protest. And I would dare I say assisting the People's National Movement, because if you're mounting a platform against the government at that time, then in a way you're assisting the PNM. And so Dr. Megu, and they went into conversations, the PNM went into conversations with other political organizations, They did not, coming out of the conversation, they did not form any sort of an alliance, etc. But they initiated it because they knew very well that they had to practice addition politics. If you look at what Dr. Rowley did with the PNM, he has transformed the organization. You remember when they had the Balize, not just the Balize, tie and all of those things that may make a political organization come across sick as a sycophants, but he has expanded the organization. Some of the candidates, which I want to speak about as well, some new candidates, some exiting politicians, etc. And when you compare and contrast to the UNC is meeting, I assume right now, with some political organizations. I think that's a good step for any opposition party, as the PNM did it. Here's the thing though. Politics or winning elections is about popularity and being persuasive. I don't think the COP is as popular as they once were. I don't know who the political leader of the COP is. MND, I know the political leader is Gavin Nicholas, who I like, by the way. But where's the party? How many members do you have? Where's your executive? When did you have an internal election? So you're meeting with people, interest. So to me, it's the gravitas of it all. The other two, there are three main third parties in this country. And I don't even know if we could consider TPP a third anymore, because they won. But I would say the Tobago People's Party. I would say the NTA, because the NTA has a seat in the Diego Martin Borough Corporation as an alderman. That exists. And you facilitated that a few months ago. And then you have the Patriotic Front. The founder of the United National Congress's party has formed another organization, another vehicle that is, when you listen, I was listening to the People's Mic on YouTube, and waste, mismanagement, and corruption. If you go back to 1995, you will see that would have been a campaign utilized then. And so you're seeing instances of what reminds you of a 90s election of the UNC. I think those are the people you should be interested in speaking with if you're really serious about unity. But of course, when we speak in alliances and seeing what happened with the People's Partnership, which is something I know that you are against, Marsha, you have to negotiate your political ideologies. And it's not about coming together to fight. It is about, what is your stance on stand your ground? What is your position on constitutional reform? Because let us say you win the majority. Do you think that the age of a senator should be shifted from 25 to younger? What do you think about the commissions in this country? What is your opinion on local government reform? Do you think local government should be abolished? What is your take on crime? Do you think we should defund the police? Do you think we should increase funding? Yes? What does Tobago autonomy looks like to you? And that kind of conversation, by the way, that substantial conversation has been missing for a while. And I'll tell you something, and I'm being very
Chris, I don't know that,
and honest. I'm gonna finish it.
Okay.
The People's National Movement is putting forward substantial policies, whether you agree with it, you disagree with it. That is.
Oh, I don't know what policies they're putting forward.
Well, when you listen to the debates in Parliament, or you listen to their point of view, they are justified in a way, in their argument. It is convincing. You might disagree with it, but it can convince some. When you look at the UNC now, what is your plan for the health sector? What is the plan for crime? Is it stand your ground?
Listen,
Okay.
what I don't want you to think is that PNM doing anything good just because the UNC doing things bad.
I'm saying that with discussing your ability to win elections, I'm saying that you were in opposition for the past 9 to almost 10 years. You should be having everyone in this country know exactly what your point of view is for restarting the economy, if you believe that it is. What is the
You said
plan with
you will reopen Patrotron.
Well, right. So how you plan to do that? Tell us how. How you plan to do it? You want to increase the minimum wage? Okay, well, tell us how you're going to increase the revenue. How are you going to fix the forex crisis? And there are spaces in which we can deal with the central bank, and Parliament permits that. So why are you not bringing forward those things? Yes. And this is where the UNC has to field better candidates. So I think they need to have more persons like Anita Haynes. I think they need to have more people like Rushton Parry. I think the guy that you just had on, the attorney, Taklal Singh, I think he is someone that they definitely need. Yes. I think those are the people that the UNC needs to help shift the conversation to that of being productive. This pot and pan protest is not good enough. Because you know why it is not good enough, Marsha? Because it didn't yield results in the last local government election. All this pressure. And what happened? The status quo remained the same. You look at Maruga Tableland, the seat of Indian Walk Lengua. In 2019, the UNC candidate was a guy named Rajesh Lal. He won that seat by 300 votes, margin 300. The PNM won the seat quite recently, but I think it's about 700 something now. Yes? So what does that tell you? That tells you that Maruga Tibaran is in trouble. So as people have opinions of the PNM and all of those different things, what is the opinion of the UNC? What is the opinion people have of the UNC? And I think that is where the UNC has to shift its branding. It has to have a very specific plan. And I think that there needs to be a rejuvenation. There needs to be a rejuvenation. I was looking quite recently at Parliament,
I don't think it's going to happen.
at the Tobago autonomy. And you see the leader of the House and the Prime Minister, you saw the seasoned, experienced politicians in them. I don't know, you looked at it. That committee, I was like, wow, that committee was interesting to me. So the United National Congress has a lot to do. My problem is that after 9 years, no one should be saying that you have a lot to do.
Yeah.
No one should be saying that you have a lot to do. No one should be saying that you have a lot to do. And
but Chris, all we doing here, I mean, well, I don't know, but none of this.
It should be a very easy thing. When Farley won in Tobago, we saw it coming. You saw the wave come in. You knew the pulse of the people.
But I don't want to sit and bad talk UNC all day.
I'm not bad talking them. I'm being very honest. And I'm assessing the numbers.
I hear you, but sitting saying where is, I feel like that conversation has happened. We've had that conversation. It's not happening. So what's the next step?
Well, the next step...
Haynes is not getting back her seat. Rushton Parry is not getting back his seat. I don't know who in the current lineup can speak to.
I want to disagree. I want to disagree with you.
You think he's getting it back?
My answers I don't know. And the reason my answers I don't know is because Dr. Munilal contested leadership, political leadership, not executive, political leadership against Mrs. Kamla Prasad-Bissessa. He retained his seat. Yes? And so I think the same
I can't say what I want to say on air.
A day in politics is a lifetime. And so I wouldn't be surprised, because I do think they are valuable persons.
I agree.
I think they are of substance. And I'm certain that Mrs. Prasad-Bissessa, the national executive, the duly elected national executive, will understand how valuable, or should, I think they should, be intelligent enough to identify their value and negotiate.
So you think if she chose Anita and Rushton, that could change election results?
I think it would make her look more like a democratic leader, and it would look as though she is uniting the party, like how Rowley is uniting continuing to unite the PNM and build it. I think it will create. And also, let's not forget the responsibility that Anita Haynes and Rushton Parry has there, because they're not off the hook. They're not off the hook. They led the United Patriots. They have followers and members as well. When I say members, but unofficial, they have their following. And so if they retain their seats, they must be able to tell their members, well, listen, we are going to support the party, and this is what we must do in order to win. So they also have an equal responsibility now as well, Yes, they have an equal, because they position themselves to be deputy political leaders. So they have now a responsibility to also lead. Even though they didn't win, they are now viewed, and again, as I said, their political currency increased. So they are now viewed in that way. So getting back the seat is one thing, but also what they do with it is another.
What do you want to see them do with it if they got it back?
I would like to see Anita Haynes and Rushton Parry continue as politicians in Trinidad and Tobago. I want to see them there.
Continue how? Towing the line?
I think they have created a space and allowed a space for disagreement. I think they have allowed that space, and are
they gonna spend 5 years continuing to disagree with the political leader?
Well, there are ways in which the members can elect leaders in the United National Congress, just like the PNM. And the difference is in the PNM, as you lose an election or lose too many elections, which has never happened. But when you start losing elections, the members decide, well.
Yeah, Manning. That was Manning.
Correct. And so this election is a critical election for Mrs. Prasad-Bisasa, It's not that critical for Dr. Rowley, because Dr. Rowley has proven for the past 9 years that he is a political giant and can, navigate himself through anything. But for Mrs. Prasad-Bisasa, this could mean a lot. This could mean that she can be the comeback of the century, which would be interesting, because I don't think we have ever seen someone, a former prime minister that lost for 10 years and is back as the prime minister. I don't think we have ever seen that. But that'll be the comeback of this. That'll be interesting, right? But then it can also mean that this could mean perhaps there might be even a bigger group or more pressure mounted against her for her to retire or exit the political arena.
Do you think UNC can win without NT and the Patriotic Front?
As it stands right now, I think the UNC.
What if the UNC brought on Dinesh, brought back Rai, brought back everybody?
Yeah.
Inside the UNC.
Mm-hmm.
But chose to go it alone with Kamala at the helm. Do you think UNC can beat NT and Patriotic Front?
I think it's not only about who you bring back from the United Patriots. I think it's also about who you keep currently. At the end of the day, there are politicians in this country. And as
so you think so? Okay, let's assume Kamala. Let's assume Kamala brought out 39 good candidates.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think?
Yeah.
You think she can win on a 3-horse race?
I think there's a possibility with the right messaging, with the right campaign. I think so. With a sober, electable.
It's not going to be sober.
Well, then I think you have your answer. But I think the UNC knows the things.
Well, she can't change overnight.
Yeah. Well.
Do you think her image can really change overnight?
I was just speaking to somebody about this. I find Mrs. Prasad-Bisasa to be a chameleon in politics. I don't know if you catch what I'm saying. I think that her branding has been so interesting to me.
So you think she can change? You think she can camouflage herself well enough?
Anyone can change, but is it
win in a 3-horse race?
Would it be convinced? Would persons be convinced?
Last year, Candy could not beat the PNM in a 3-horse race. Let me remind you of that, because 2007 if you ask me, is what we're looking at in 2025.
I
Now,
think the Patriotic Front, depending on the seat that Miss Pandey contest, I think that will definitely cause some sort of political injury to the UNC in some seats. Because I was thinking about this, and I said, well, what if
do
she
you
is to
think St. Joseph? Do you think in St. Joseph a 3-horse race UNC can win St. Joseph?
No, 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 no. Neither San Fernando West. And if Miss Pandey, and by the way, Miss Pandey did say in an interview years ago that if she were to contest the election, this was in 2020, she said she would have contested San Fernando West.
And so we have Michaela in San Fernando West and Gary in St. Joseph. Do you think?
No, I don't think the UNC.
What was that?
I don't think the UNC would win if they are not running a third party there. No, I don't think the UNC would win. No. They don't have the numbers to it.
They don't. Because in 2010,
but Marsha,
I would say 2010. I would say 2010 would have been what Kamala calls the Kamala Mania year, right?
Correct, yeah.
UNC got 287,458 votes, right? PNM would have been massively unpopular in 2010. They got 316,600. So I'm using 2010 in particular because I mean, if we go to 2007, well, it's abysmal, right? PNM 300,000, UNC 194. Yeah, I'll go with 195,000, rounding up, right? PNM gets 300,000 votes no matter what, upwards of 300,000. Yeah. UNC, once there is a third party, will struggle.
Not just will struggle, but Marsha, there's something that we think of Miss Pandey contesting San Fernando West, by the way, because she said it in 2020, right? On a radio interview. I remember when I think Rome had asked her, and he had asked her, if you were to contest the election, which seat would you go for? And she said San Fernando West. And I was like, that makes sense. But there's a seat also that she can contest, and that's the seat of Couva North. And if you look at the figures in Couva North, right, the UNC in 2020 got 12,000. The PNM got 5,000. If she is to run there, I think there's a likelihood that she will not only wrestle some votes from the UNC, but the non-voting population, Couva North, may support her. The population
I don't see it making sense to go in Couva North. I'd be honest. Not when you cut, because it's more of you're looking at 5,000 as opposed to 12,000, right?
Well, it depends on the objective. Is the objective to win, or is the objective to wrestle some of the base behind your party?
Okay, but you think she's gonna wrestle 8? What? Do my math for me. 12. How much you said? 5,000. So that's 7,000. So she will need to wrestle some of the base. So what is she gonna do? Wrestle it? Just because she would have to wrestle some 7,000.
Well, you saw in the internal election, the UNC active base is very lower in terms of participating in an election. So 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, that's a big chunk.
Yeah, but then just to say that you wrestle some and then UNC still has
to build momentum for 2030.
Well, build it in San Fernando West.
Well, but Marsha, here's the thing. What will the opposition look like should UNC lose because of not being able to unite with the forces?
No, let's go back to Couva North. I'm not understanding the way that you're thinking. So she runs in Couva North, she loses, but she says, oh, but look, I got quite a bit of your base.
Not a bit of your base. I'm building my base.
Well, build your base in San Fernando West with a seat.
Do you but okay, so this is where because
you're saying Couva North, right? I could say that Gary could do that in Diego Martin West, which he's not doing, because I can say I can say that Diego Martin West non-voters are so huge, right? And you can look at the 2007 report that will show how many votes the COP would have gotten, which means all of that
Yeah.
and all of
No,
that,
I see
but you're
that.
still
I
gonna
see that.
lose. You're still
I
gonna
see that.
lose.
But
So it doesn't make sense for a political leader to run in a seat just to say you could build some base. Listen, you build a base by
to
putting
migrate a
somebody else.
base,
So
maybe to migrate.
you're building, yeah. But what I'm saying is, so unless the Patriotic Front is Michaela Pandin, it's not really a real party. She can contest through somebody else in Couva North.
Mm-hmm.
Just like Gary would be contesting Diego Martin through other people. So he's put other people, they have announced.
No, I understand. I understand
the
it.
other Diego Martins, so, but it would not make sense for her specifically to run in Couva North. But she can.
Well, it was a dad seater. It was a dad seat.
Well, yeah, but
that's all. By the way, I didn't mention that. That's the reason I said Couva North.
Yeah, but that's like Kamala lost her deposit in Superior, because at the end of the day, let's be real.
You don't ever let that one go. Huh?
Because what it shows is that these people are not voting for the individual.
Right.
They're voting for the party. So Couva North, that is a UNC base. That's not a Panday base.
I just remembered something.
So yes, she'll take some.
So Kamala met with the Papa parties today.
Yes, she did. After she called them Papa party, she met with the Papa party.
I just remembered something, and I want to mention this about the PNM as well and the rejuvenation politically. Outside of the persons who retain the seats that can be potential leaders of the PNM, you had something very interesting happen. The Minister of National Security.
Okay, so I just got word from Gavin Nicholas that he cannot make it.
Yes, because maybe the meeting has started yet. But maybe.
But I didn't ask him. I wouldn't want to put him in that position.
But ask him and keep the answer.
But to those media houses out there, I mean, they probably wouldn't answer, right? Because, they always say answers that she didn't answer the message or whatever. But I would be interested. I would dare any of those political parties that went to that meeting today. I dare them to tell us what time that meeting started.
Oh, gosh.
If the UNC is serious about governing this country, if the UNC is serious about respecting these third parties that you insulted just last week.
Well,
if I were a political leader, and I'm not, but if I were, your first sign of respecting me is to start the meeting on time.
Well, that is, I don't disagree with you, but Laventille West, Fitzgerald Hines, who is, a colorful politician. Some people love him. Some people really
Some people love him?
Yes, there are some people that love him.
Okay.
Yeah. There are some people who don't love him. And
I think more on that side, but I was shocked to hear that some people love him.
We see that he is not returning to the lower house. And of course, the PNM has opted to go, and I think it's an exercise of democracy and partisan democracy, because the Women's League within the Laventille West group constituency would have rallied behind Kareem Marcel, a number of youth. He has a number of supports. I think he's a very charismatic.
That speaks to, again, the PNM's way of doing things, right? Yeah. In the UNC, we do not have that system where the party groups get together and nominate. So we don't have a situation where we say, look, out of the 20 party groups in Superior, 10 have backed this particular candidate.
Yeah.
So that in itself shows the strength of the democracy.
Political. Yes, and that's what I'm saying.
Although PNM cancelled their version of the convention or whatever, their internal elections, and
but Kareem Marcel, by putting Kareem Marcel in the seat, I think Kareem Marcel is someone that within my age group, everyone knows Kareem.
Yeah.
Everyone knows Kareem from
Do you think he can swing to the base? Do you think he could speak to the swing? Sorry.
I think he could speak to young professionals.
You think so?
I think he's really charismatic. I think he has an incredible success story of hard work. And I do also know, and you can fact check him, he holds his own party to account. And that's progressive politics. If you go on his Facebook page, he's very honest, and he's honest in a gentle way, but honest.
Yeah.
And that's progressive politics. And he is politically attractive. I'm being very honest and fair. I think he's politically attractive. And I think he is going to be one of the front runners and I hope he will be, because I think he would be able to pull a number of youth support, a number of persons from Generation Z, which is my generation. And I think it was an excellent move. I think he's a great pick as well.
So you see, this is what we talk about in terms of PNM versus UNC, right?
Yeah.
Because Eric Williams would have once said that, he could put a crapo in a Bali's tie and they'll win. Laventille West? It's West, right? Right. Laventille West would be one of those seats where nobody stand a chance of winning other than PNM. So they could have left Hines and it would not have made a difference in Laventille West. But the PNM understands that you can speak to the wider community through your safe seats.
Correct.
That is what the PNM understands.
And let me say also...
And so that's what I was talking about in terms of the value of Anita Haynes. So she may be in a UNC safe seat.
But she speaks
to more than the base. She speaks to more than your... And when I say base, I mean the sycophants, right?
And I think Kareem also, his ability to carry a message. And that's another thing you want to look at your politicians. Can they carry a message? Can they be convincing and persuasive? And he, if you don't know, before he entered politics, before he was an alderman, he'd been doing interviews on the television and being engaged by the media. I believe he was also a former national youth parliamentarian, if I'm not mistaken. So he has that ability, and that's what you want more. You want to see these people more on your morning shows and on budget conversations, and because that's how you carry a message. Politics is about carrying messages, getting it out there. When we heard spread the gospel of the PNM, that's a real thing, and it's not just the PNM, it's a political message, right? So I didn't find it offensive, because that is a political hostility, what you expect to hear there. And so UNC should practice that thing, having a message and spreading it wide and having persons who can be convincing.
We don't have persons who can speak publicly.
Anita is that person, but look what's going on.
But we don't have a wealth of them, and so that's also a problem. It cannot be. Anita does a really good job, but it cannot be that you struggle.
She's alone in it. She's alone in it, because if you look at the People's National Movement and you look at their communication skills, I can tell you, Marvin Gonzalez, A+. Faris, oh my gosh, A+. And I've seen Stuart Young. I attended the BBC thing,
conversations,
and he was excellent. Foster Cummins and what he's doing with youth development. Dr. Nyan Gadsby Dolly, Shamfa Kujo. And by the way, I just want to say Shamfa Kujo is someone, and I know that politically UNC don't like, okay, all right. But I think as Mr. Pandey says, right? So you don't pelt spoil mango, right? And Shamfa has evolved as a politician. When you look at Shamfa from the Senate, coming into the lower house and being able to shift quickly when she sees what's going on in Tobago. She's an excellent dynamic politician. She's a great communicator. When you listen to her, when she travel and represents Trinidad and Tobago, not the PNM, Trinidad and Tobago, she is partisan. She was one of the judges for my youth parliament debate alongside Anita Haynes. The class that both of them exude, their communication skills, their being able to extend across the political divide. Even Ayanna Webster Roy and some of the work she does with some of the opposition MPs. This is the progressive politics that we want to see. Now, we know political hustings, what you get there, right? Yes. We want more of that with the UNC. That's what we want more of, right? Yes. So I think I found you to be a good communicator, Marsha, in the UNC. I told you this. Yeah, let's not forget that, right? I told you that.
But I will not put my name up under the current leadership, because as I said to Kyle earlier, We
I
are
think
part of
Kyle.
the.
Oh, by the way,
Kyle is an
Kyle.
excellent communicator.
I
Excellent.
I think he's excellent as well. Politically, he's excellent. Marsha, how much more time we have left?
2 minutes.
2 minutes. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for having me on.
Well,
Did we analyze enough?
I don't. We didn't really, because I would have wanted to talk about
Chaguanas East,
and
Barataria,
the
San Juan.
choices. Yeah, so the choices
Yeah.
that they would have announced was
I
Michael
would say
Dowlat the right choice? I personally think that
quickly, Michael
Jayanti
Dowlat.
should have been chosen for
I
San
agree.
Fernando West.
I agree.
I think
I
Faris Alrawi is very, very, very charismatic. He deals with the media very well.
He's
Jayanti
very
is a
energetic.
good communicator.
He's
And
very energetic.
yeah.
Faris is very energetic. Will walk the entirety of San Fernando West. He's up and down. Excellent. And
so I think
one
Jayanti
thing,
would have been able to match him, and she has, because she shadowed him as the AG, and you saw them go at it, and she came out on top a lot. She's very charismatic, and I think that she would have been the perfect person to match Faris. I don't think that whether Mr. Dowlat is
Doctor.
Dr. Dowlat, whether he's great or not, awesome,
Yeah.
good guy.
But his national profile, yes, we don't know who he is. We don't know what he stands for. I know he was a former principal.
Yeah, but we could learn that, right? But the question is, can he present it? Can he win us over? Does he have the personality to match? Because at the end of the day, this is politics, and we're about a campaign. And
popularity and persuasiveness. I agree with you.
You need that. You need it, and that's the bottom line. And I think that that's where PNM beats UNC all the time, because I always say it's not necessarily the best written book. There are times that UNC may have a smarter candidate or whatnot, but we don't take the time to teach public speaking or how to engage with the media, So, and I think that that's where UNC fails in terms of that personality.
I think both
30 seconds, wrap it up.
Both the PNM and both the UNC have selected good candidates for Chaguanas East and Barataria San Juan. I think it's good that UNC
and NTA has to, do you know NTA has put somebody for
Norman Dindial for Chaguanas East?
Yes. I think they put somebody for Barataria as well. I don't know. I think so.
They put someone for San Fernando West. So I know having Saddam and Vandana be the incumbent, I think there's by the way, there's a lot of value in being the incumbent. So that's good. But when you also look at what the PNM has fielded, Richie Sukai coming from the chamber, being a minister, doing some work in the area, that's a good play by the PNM. And then also Vice President of the Senate, Dr. I believe it's Ibrahim. Yeah, good pick as well. I mean, yeah. And I also want to believe that Minister Sagram Singh Suklal has been reselected for St. Augustine, who I think is going to, I know it's a UNC
I feel that's a UNC safe seat.
It's a UNC safe seat, but she's an excellent communicator.
But she can help.
Correct. She can help.
Pull from the other boundaries. So you know what, the work she does there can help with Tuna Puna and whatnot.
It can help with St. Joseph.
St. Joseph. Yeah.
It can help deeply with St. Joseph, because I don't know if you know that there was once upon a time where some PDs, because St. Joseph and St. Augustine border each other, some PDs would have gone over to St. Augustine. So I think she'd definitely be a help there. But I also would not be surprised, by the way, depending on how the campaign goes. I wouldn't be surprised.
Off somewhere on some air.
I'm looking forward to being back at some point to discuss more. Thank you for having me on.
Bye.
See you later. Good night, everyone.
Thank you, Marsha.
Bye.
Bye. That's it for today's edition of Hard Talk right here at Power 102 Digital.